Which camera's streaming? That one over there in the
The stream comes from there, and that's the Zoom.
They're only on you.
Yeah, I'm gonna start sitting on that side, or you can sit. But we do look good over here, don't we? Chris makes us look good on this side.
Morning, Justin.
Morning.
Good.
Morning, Justin.
Morning.
Yeah.
Taco Thursday, or is that Tuesday?
That's Tuesday.
That's right. That's right.
Thursday.
Ring Wednesday.
Did you say Thursday?
Thursday. Isn't everything Thursday? We can do Ring Wednesday. Somehow Thursdays became steaks, and then Fishers on Friday or something like that. You can see a lot of restaurants offering steaks or prime rib or something.
Morning, Dave.
Morning.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Dave.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Then I'd like a moment of silence for our 13 lost members in Afghanistan. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call to order the Jefferson County Local Development Corporation. This is our Thursday, September 9th meeting. Privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Good morning. We received our minutes from the last meeting. Is there any additional and/or corrections?
I'll move them as presented.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Treasurer's report, page 7.
Yeah, page 7 of your packet. So, 11 months completed. We've exceeded we will have exceeded our revenue projections by the end of next month. If we just get 52,000 more, which is about half of what we've been getting. So it looks pretty confident that we'll get there.
Yeah, I think so.
Considering the top line is a standard entry, the 55. Yeah. So we'll exceed our revenue budget by between 40 and 50,000. Operational expense side, we're spending less, which is a good thing. So straight line average break even would be 96,000 a month. We're spending just under 79,000 a month. So again, looking at where we'll probably be about 200-ish thousand under what the budget is. So we're going to be surplus of about 250,000, which is 2020 was a surplus of 170-ish. So it's consistent with last year. So thanks for the effort in achieving more revenue and spending less money. That's both good things. Page 8, 9, and 10 are snapshots of our major programs, ag, marketing, and training. Again, they're both, all three are on target to be below budget with some small surpluses in each of them. And page 11 is your balance sheet. Compared to prior month, our quick assets are about 37,000 lower, and our receivables are about 29,000 higher. So in total, the total assets are about 9,000 lower than prior month. Total liabilities are about 33,500 lower, and total capital is about 24,000.
Motion carries. Thank you. Moving right along. Committee reports. Finance.
Yeah, we met on August 24th to review the proposed operating budget for 2022 for the JCLDC, and everything was pretty much in line with what it was last year. We did see, I guess there was an adjustment made from the HAB grant. I think from the initial one we removed that because SciTech now is handling that and administering that grant, I guess, so we removed it from that budget. We did notice that the salaries were higher than last year, obviously with the adjustment with exiting of Don and shuffling around the people. The wages are down lower than because we're actually one individual shorter now, so. We did have some discussion on whether we would look at filling another position.
Yeah, we're looking at that, so we'll come back and probably ask for amendment when we're ready to move with that.
But beyond that, I think it's pretty much about the same as last year, when you say, wow.
That budget's a budget. I've been doing them for a lot of years, and something is going to happen during the year that we don't anticipate, but the best information I have right now is here.
Actually, a little lower.
Okay, so I would really accept the budget as presented.
I'll second it.
So for our 2021, 2022 budget, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Alternative energy.
We didn't actually meet, so there's not much to report, but if Paul would take a few minutes, he, I think, attended a webinar on the state's assessment of formulas.
Yes. The state, as we're well aware, we've talked about several times, has established a uniform methodology for the appraisal of solar and wind farms. And the Office of Real Property Tax Services had a webinar to explain the process. And they have their draft, it's all in draft now in the rulemaking process, the draft calculations to use to generate them. So I sat in on that, and then I went through and I plugged in one of the projects in Lafargeville using the formula they provided, and it would push up, it comes out with a higher value than our appraisal was. And I also did the Borlex project. That came in about $700,000 a megawatt. So it's really not pushing values down. One of the major differences between the appraisal that the county received, that we have a copy of, and the state's is the discount rate. Our appraiser used a 15% discount rate. The state's methodology is using a 10%, and that has a major impact on the output of the implied value. So,
Oh, is the 7K the 50% abated or the full tax?
full.
Okay, so,
Full value.
okay. And you
So-
said bigger ones were like almost double that.
The community solars came in over $1 million a megawatt. Now, that's assuming one, that I use their formula in their spreadsheet accurately, which it's kind of hard not to because most of the information is programmatically added. Now, this is still subject to comments from not only assessors, but developers and anyone. I submitted a couple comments to them more about making it easier, because you have to leave their site to go to NYSERDA's site, copy down information to bring back into the state site, and you would think they could do that programmatically based on projects.
Did you run one for like one of the larger projects? That are
Borlex.
proposed? Okay, I thought I heard you say
Yeah.
that.
So you have to go they've been awarded rec credit grant from NYSERDA. It's like $14.98 a megawatt. And you have to put that in, you have to put the length of that contract, what the maximum number of megawatts that are included. You have to go get that from NYSERDA and plug it in. And I did all that, and I did it correctly. That's about where it's going to come out. So full taxation on a Borlex would be probably $14,000 a megawatt.
So 5,500, and then if we start adding in the premium for ag lands and things, it's not a terrible guesstimation where we are.
We're probably low on all of them at 5,500 at 50% of taxation over the life is our goal. So I think it's something we need to talk about in the Alternative Energy Committee, how we proceed once we see the finals. Based upon previous rulemaking, I doubt there'll be significant changes.
It seemed like in prior discussion, the community solar fits much more nicely under UTEP, and that kind of is what it is. The larger ones we're always gonna be a deviation. So the larger ones are the ones that have to go through the state formula, or do both have to go through the state formula?
Anything over 1 megawatt has to use
Okay.
this calculation.
So basically, every project except that Butterville,
Pretty much everything.
that Butterville Road was.
We've had
0.87.
2 or 3,
Yeah,
I think,
there was
that are
two
under
that were on
megawatt,
eight,
so.
yeah. Very, very insignificant amount of the
So.
pilot. That's good. We're not too far off.
But
We're low.
my concern was that they'd be pushing the values down dramatically, and that just didn't occur. So, which is a good thing, but we'll have to wait to the final. The one thing that'll change, the discount rate will change annually. The one question I didn't get an answer because it was kind of hard to hear is when you first put it in, they calculate the output, how many megawatts it'll generate, megawatt hours it'll generate over the year. And I didn't hear whether year 3 or 4, you use actual historical generation versus projected generation.
Do you put in a geographical coordinate to calculate the output?
No, that's programmatically put in.
So, I mean,
Based
you're putting in
upon-
a zip code or something.
You put in what ISO zone we're in.
Okay. That, at least gets you in the right.
My other comment is in one area you had to put in kilowatt hours, and one area you had to put in megawatt hours. That doesn't make sense to me, but.
Because I gotta believe there's not the same efficacy everywhere in the state.
Right, no, there isn't.
Well, if you
Clearly, I
were,
wouldn't think just because of,
if you would talk to
The sun,
people, in
everything
our county, there's areas where it's different.
okay,
So, but they project based upon the project installed capacity, how many megawatt hours a year they'll
sounds like
create.
it's a pretty neat
So.
program. And that would be available to, it's an online program that's available to anyone.
Yeah, anyone
really.
here
So our
could
agency
go
would
in
be
and-
able to-
Yeah, anyone that has internet can access the Excel spreadsheet and play with it if they wanted to.
That's
So.
interesting to figure out how we have to start using that.
Paul, I had a conversation with a woman this week. She's 81 years old. She lives 6 miles north of Ithaca. She has a 500-acre farm. I think it might be an EDF project, commercial, going in there. They wanted 300 and some acres of their farm. They're paying $1,800
an
a
acre.
lease, or they want to buy it. The purchase price will be $18,000 an acre.
How
So-
much?
18,000 an acre if they buy it, because, you know.
After 10 years, to pay for it.
Right, exactly. Well, but here's my question is, so how is that gonna, say in these bigger projects or newer projects where they actually buy the land under 100% evaluation, tax rate or local tax jurisdictions,
Well,
how, is the state gonna come in and say, no, you're not gonna assess that on the tax rolls for $18,000 an acre?
well, the valuation that's put out by this, the new regulations, that 700K includes the value of the underlying land, and the assessors are gonna have to extract what percentage of that goes to the land. Okay, and that's normal in any income approach to value. You come up with a total value, and you try to
But in that
determine
example-
what percentage of the income is attributable to the land.
So we have to take that, out.
example-
If we're looking for 50% of the value, for our pilot, then we've got to extract that out before figuring that out too, so.
I was talking with, Tompkins County, which is Ithaca, is countywide assessing, and I was talking with their assessor, who's also a county director. He had both jobs, and they had real concerns because that project has the best land in all of Tompkins County.
Yeah.
And it's a lot bigger than 300 acres. It's a huge
Well, her
project.
portion of it on
Yeah,
her
so-
farm was 300.
They have concerns about the quality of the land there because it's really the best land in their county is being proposed as this project goes on.
Is it easy to determine, or do you have to work with the town or county assessors to extract the land value? Like what to Dave's point, like this program spits out a number, but you gotta pull the piece out that we don't theoretically care about when you're granting pilots. Like how do you get to that point?
How do you?
How do you get to the point of extracting the fair value of the land so it's not
They're doing-
inflated and the pilot is like de minimis?
You need to understand that the appraisals we've seen, the land has been part of that, but the appraiser went through and extracted what he thought the land value
Okay.
was. So we dealt with that. That's something the assessor's gonna have to do.
So in a normal assessment, somebody wouldn't put a premium on the land just because it was sold for a commercial benefit, not because of the underlying land itself. Like if acreage is $2,000 an acre for all prime soils, they're not gonna say, oh, it's 18,000 an acre. Like an assessor would not generally come to that conclusion. Maybe, it's just kind of like, there's a lot of
In
subjective
the
stuff.
past, the town of Henderson had Bill Chamberlain, or that was Ellisburg.
Okay.
And he actually used soil type valuation in the past. Most assessors aren't using that now.
Okay.
Unless something's changed since I left, but I doubt it has. So,
So there's that piece. It sounds like when we use this program, we kind of have to work with the entity that's assessing the underlying land and agree upon what gets extracted. Like, we can't just do it ourselves because we might come up with the wrong answer.
I'd be looking for sales in the area
Okay.
more than they're gonna look at sales. Jay can tell you that we have ag land sales pushing $6,000-7,000 an acre now. So in the higher areas with the assessors, I can tell you in Champion, that assessor called me months ago. I think he's using $5,000 an acre for the underlying land value.
That's something we just have to consider if we have to use this program, how we
First off,
safely extract the land part.
we have to use this program.
No,
Or the towns have to use
Yeah.
this program, so.
But it means somebody then has to safely.
Well, but we'll still accept the town's value though. won't we?
Exactly. I mean, if the town's the entity
Right.
that develops that and they're one of the affected taxing jurisdictions, I would think that would be the safest answer is what are you valuing the underlying land at?
Well, it could be getting back to the point where instead of using a lump sum value, we may go to an assessment and an exempt percent value. And that would alleviate that concern, but those are all things for discussions is if we get new projects coming along.
Thanks, Bob.
I don't know if Justin sat in on it and heard anything different, but that's my impression of it. I don't think it's going to be an overly disastrous process.
Which is our.
I would agree. Thanks. Building and grounds, do we have anything? We have an update on that from the IDA.
We have had a meeting.
Jay,
Good morning.
good morning.
Just quickly, a couple different things to make note of. Obviously, a little bit later on, we've got the egg hatchery as a topic. I did bring in the site plan, also the renderings and stuff. So if after, during the IDA meeting, I can, or afterwards, I'd be as best I can, what all of this is up here. So just let me know and I'd be happy to do that. Let's see, other things, working with a farm that's considering a potential rail project, an agricultural rail project. We just kicked off the process for planning for a 2022 agricultural conference. We were doing those up until last year. That sort of got screwed up by the coronavirus. Trying to plan those and the committee that I pulled together from the Ag Council, they've set some really lofty goals as far as speakers and so on. So it'll be pretty interesting to try and raise the money to pay for all that. But so far, we've always made it happen. So we'll see what we can do. Got a couple dairy projects, on-farm dairy projects that we're assisting with. Meat processing is always out there. So a lot of different things going on as far as the usual projects. One thing, and I'm going to mention it here, but I want to bring it to the Alternative Energy Committee at your next meeting, if that's okay. Last night at the County Agriculture and Farmland Protection Board meeting, somebody brought to my attention the decommissioning plan for one of the solar projects going in southern Jefferson County. And they quickly wanted my opinion based on my soil and water conservation district years as to whether this was adequate. And we've got some research to do on this, and last night we said that we'll pull together the agencies that need to take a look at this. But what we saw, and I don't want to get into the details here because I don't necessarily want to have it go out to the public, but we were very concerned about the decommissioning plans on agricultural land. And so the Ag and Farmland Protection Board is going to contact Farm Bureau, Ag and Markets, and the Soil and Water Conservation District, and I'll be involved as well, and taking a look at what are the recommended decommissioning standards, reclamation standards for agricultural land. Because what I have on paper, I don't believe is adequate.
Large project, small, over 5 megawatts or under?
Under.
So it's one of the smaller ones.
Yeah, this is one of the.
So it's
smaller
one that's being reviewed by a town planning board and the town's going to approve it.
That's correct. And the Ag and Farmland Protection Board intends to eventually send out a letter to all of the municipalities with recommendations on what agricultural reclamation should look like for these projects.
A good thing, a good place to look, Jay, if you wanted to tell Doug or whoever is heading this up, is on the state site, whether it's the old Article 10 or the new system, most of these projects already have proposed decommissioning plans in their proposals to the state regulations. And that'd be a good place to find some background on some of these, especially a large one. I think Boralex has their proposed decommissioning plan out there that may already be in front of Ag and Markets. So if you wanted some examples of what the state is requiring, that'd be a good place to get some background information.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So, but it is something that needs to be addressed. And if there is an educational need for our municipalities, we'll certainly help Ag and Farmland Protection Board and the other agencies get the word out there.
I would say decommissioning is one of the biggest issues, whether it's on ag lands or not.
Yeah.
Because if one of these projects walks away, who's going to take care of it?
Exactly.
So,
In my opinion, this one is not adequate. But, want to get the other experts on board with it as well to see if I'm off base or not. So that's it for me. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And again, I've got the plans, so if you want to see them, let me know.
quick question. In our lovely weather the last few days, I was watching, I forget whether it was Facebook Live or something else. There was an Iowa dairy farm doing a live broadcast from a fully robotic farm, and it was extremely interesting. I watched it for probably an hour. Do we have any fully robotic farms in our county?
No.
Doesn't Lewis County has, right, Mark's Farm or whatever, one of those? No, they're not robotic?
They may have robotic milking
Probably not.
equipment. They may have what they call robotic calf feeding equipment. If you go to Agbotics, for example, he has his gantry system that is, partially automated, so you could call that robotic, but a completely robotic.
I mean,
farm.
this one had a thing that went in front of where they pushed the feed up the bunker, and the machine stopped when it came to the guy and waited.
Well, okay, so
That-
and usually the farms that put in robotic milking equipment also get that piece of equipment, we call them R2D2s. They're a device that is, programmed to travel around the barn and push the feed back up in front of the cows. And it's robotic, and if you stand in front of it, it
I
will
don't know,
stop.
I found it extremely interesting to
Yeah.
watch.
If you ever want to take a tour, let me know. I'd be happy to organize one for you. So, and we do have several farms here in the county that have gone to robotic milkers, and I expect, if projecting the future of dairy here in Jefferson County, it wouldn't surprise me in 20 years that any cow that's milked is milked by robots because of the labor situation. That won't get better. It'll get worse.
Thanks, Jay.
That's right.
Thank you.
Anything for manufacturing, Dave?
No, not the report here.
Marketing?
Thank you. One thing regarding manufacturing is we do have Manufacturing Day that's fast approaching. I wanted to mention a couple of things. We have the New York State EDC conference coming up in Cooperstown this month, and there are a couple of key breakouts. Attracting and retaining the workforce of the future, since economic development has become workforce, basically. Energy and economic development, market-ready infrastructure, and scalable approaches to employers' workforce needs. Those are going to be interesting, and see how they apply here in Jefferson County. Arsenal Street building, completely clear and ready for demo, except for one, small piece of equipment that we're working to remove. We'd love to say that that's going to be gone today, but it's about the size of a refrigerator, but weighs 3,000 pounds. And it's been a little frustrating to deal with. Critically, CFA projects, pilots, with all this stuff that we have going on, airport project, YMCA, I don't want anyone to think for a second that we're not working with local businesses on their expansion projects as well. Because that is really, as we go back to the 80-20 rule, job growth is local businesses. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And Lakeshore Economy and Resiliency Project is having a public meeting on September 21st. And I've been a part of this. It's been sort of a statewide in that Albany has a part in it, but it's all, we have the Lakeshore here in Jefferson County. Yes, there are other places less impacted by the high water than we've had, but it's shoreline management, land use development in light of the extreme high and low water that we've gone through the last couple years. So that's going to be very interesting, and the meetings have been great, and I've enjoyed them. So thank you.
Any questions for Marshall? Unfinished business?
Not for LDC, right?
Counselor, you have anything for us for the LDC?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. New business? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.
That's this.
I will now call to order the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency.
Hit the campus. Yep. Take care.
Hey, Greg.
Have a good day.
Have a safe drive.
One of the things we're doing, for a second, we're taking a look at our internship programs and trying to revitalize those to some extent. So if anybody's got thoughts on internships for undergraduates or graduates, let me know.
Good.
Thanks.
I'll keep that in mind.
All right. Thanks.
We had our pledge of allegiance, first privilege of the floor. We have our minutes from our August 5th and August 18th meetings. Are there any additions and or corrections?
Nope. I'll move them as presented.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report.
Page 14. Similar to the LDC, looks like there'll be a significant surplus by the end of the year. The revenue side, we've already have a surplus, and just adding on a little bit of additional income from interest and things of that nature. We'll probably end up about $550,000 above budget as a surplus on the revenue side. On the operational expense side, we we'll still probably not achieve our full spending, and that even includes 88,500 write-off of some items that we voted earlier in the year to write off. So we will probably end the year with between 625 and 660,000 surplus, somewhere in that range. Not a lot of unknowns that are happening in one more month. So the balance sheet, page 15, quick assets are 108,000 lower than prior month. Receivables are up 2.1 million, which I should make a note. 2 million of that was moving the funds to cover the PCB, or is it 1.5? I forget the number. 2 million. Okay. So it's really 104,000 difference. 2 million is an abnormal move that's going to get spent pretty quickly. So our total current assets are 1.9 million higher. Again, if you subtract the 2 million, they're only about a $9,000 difference from prior month. Total assets are 2 million higher. Again, subtract the 2 million, 13,000. The total capital is about 60,000 lower than prior month. Page 17 is Arsenal snapshot. We have spent about 130,000 a year, and I think we debated this at the budget hearing as well when that comes up, John, but we are passing along some of the expenses directly to the Y. So even though some of the expenses are shown on here, I'm guessing we're recording the fact that we're paid for electric here, but it's being paid by somebody else, so
We
it's
have
kind
to
of
show it as
abnormal.
in- We have to show it as in.
Yeah, so it's something that we discovered going through the budgeting thing, that it looked like we were spending all the money here and it was being paid by somebody else somewhere else. So once you compare two pieces of paper, you kind of get the full picture. That's the snapshot on page 17, page 21, 2, and 3. All current except one. And I believe it was all but one. Yeah, all but one, and
that's
nothing
only
significant.
30 days.
Yeah, it was. I figured it was a recording thing. So nothing's changed in any of these loans. Okay.
They're all good.
So that is the treasurer's report. I would make a motion to accept it as presented.
Any questions? On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Loan review, Rob?
Okay, thank you. So we have CWT later in this meeting. We discussed that. We reviewed the application. As Jay indicated, there's plans. I think we had some pictures of those plans earlier. I believe we just got passed out the short form seeker. That was missing because of timing. We had to actually have a special meeting so they could have.
That's why I was cutting it close.
So there was a lot of like, this had to happen for that to happen. It was a domino thing.
Yeah.
So that package is later. I won't spend much time in that. We also did bring up talking about the Gill House. We're still waiting for that application to come before loan review. So it's still October is your expectation.
I'm excited. A lot depends on what happens. They're supposed to go to site plan review this month.
Because there is construction going on.
Yeah.
I know there's holdups in the town itself. And we also discussed the PCB remediation just a little bit. So the main action was accepting the complete application for CWT, which, as I said, is later on in this loan packet, and that's loan review.
Yes.
Again, we had a meeting on August 24th to review the budget, proposed budget for 2022 for the IDA. There were just a couple of things we talked about. The amount of debt gets allocated to that. Why I want to keep it as is. Have any bad debt speculated for this year at this point? We want to keep the numbers as they were. We did have a lot of discussion around the arsenal sheet on the costs that we're going to incur for that project. I think Lyle's going to put that together as a separate spreadsheet so we can monitor that as well going forward. As far as the other, the ag program, the marketing, Those were all pretty much in line. I think was significantly up over last year, but in general, the numbers are about the same for everything. So at this point, I think the budget, unless you have anything, Lyle, you want to add? I mean, it's
No, it's
pretty much as is.
our
So
best effort.
the motion,
That's cats.
Yeah.
I'll second John's motion.
We have a motion and a second on our 2021-2022 proposed budget. Any other discussion or questions?
The question, did we need or want a separate motion for the bad debt allowances, or just include those in the budget?
During the budget.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because Lyle wanted us to make a motion that separately at loan
As
review
long
to
as
put
we
them
have
in
it
the
in the
budget.
minutes.
Okay,
We have a methodology that we developed, and it's a moving average of the write-offs.
Okay.
But using that moving average is way too low.
Yeah.
And I think.
no, I agree. I'm fine with the numbers. I just want to make sure we didn't need a full board approval separately. If it's in the budget, that's good enough. No more discussion.
Not a problem. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 146 Arsenal.
Well, things are moving. As you see, the fence is up. Mark's has been over there, as you mentioned, trying to get one last piece of equipment out of there. And while they're, as Mike Ramos from Purcell has been there kind of scoping things out, and they're planning to get stuff underway there pretty shortly. We've got the agreement with the city allowing us to fence that off. So we're still on schedule, hopefully to have everything done by December, and then the Y starts their construction project in January. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there grant funding? I think we touched on that for the remediation that we can
Oh.
go after the fact, or?
Yeah, so we've got some other sources we're looking into right now, some government funding, but we've also, Marshall's put a grant request into National Grid, which is in the system. We're anticipating getting that for $300,000. That's the main grant source right now at this point.
The county, did we approach the county?
Yeah, we're waiting here on that.
Gotcha.
So,
Great.
One question. So once this is done, my understanding, I ran into Brad the other night, Mr. Arthur, and he said that we just have to compile documentation to end this whole process of the testing results.
yeah, so just report, I think I may have shared you with an email. So basically what EPA has said is that we don't need to go to back then any final approval, as long as the final testing shows that we're below the 1 part per million. We maintain all that documentation records in case somebody raises that question in the past. But they reviewed the plan, they're comfortable with us moving ahead, and as long as we follow the plan, we should be fine.
So once that's done and we have all that documented in place and the new caps put on, we're closing.
Yes.
Okay. And then we're going to be out of the building technically other than
being new.
So
Yeah.
there's
The landlord.
nothing else out there that we're waiting on that's a contingency to the why.
No, not that we're aware of.
Well, I guess my
that's what
position is
it is,
they want
Yeah.
to start
Yeah.
construction in
Yeah.
January, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to close before they're going to start construction, correct?
Yeah, we'll have to close, right, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have that in writing from EPA that's all they want? Email, anything?
I'll check back with Brad. We have his summary. I mean, they basically gave the verbal approval to move ahead. I'll see what we have from them officially. I've got that.
For future, everything. Don't you
Yeah.
agree, Justin? We
I was
need
concerned about
something.
her laughing.
Reflecting the record for the resolution, is that what you're?
No, EPA has given us a verbal that all we gotta do is compile the documentation and just keep it. At some point in time, EPA people change and I'd like to see something in writing or.
It's Purcell or others that are managing the remediation, to get, at a minimum, an email or something in writing from them, that'd be the best.
In fact, I'll double check. We might even have an email attached to what Brad sent me from them. So I'll check.
If you're not inclined to give an official release or a clearance letter, then obviously do what we can to get something in writing for something filed would be ideal. And ultimately, the YMCA is gonna be relying on that as well, so as much of a record as we can build, I do.
Just a word of caution, coming to that point, I mean, we're all dying to get to that point, but for me and my perspective, we won't be there until they're done demoing. Because you never know what they're gonna find when they demo, and then it's like, we didn't see this coming or didn't have that. I don't, as far as EPA, I don't see any more issues, but there's bound to be a couple of other things like, well, where do we hand off? We didn't on this scenario,
Well, they find things while they're doing, because they're doing the demo as part of the remediation. If they find things during the demo that are gonna become an issue for the renovation, that's gonna be on the wise
I was gonna say.
when they're moving forward. Because we're doing the demo and remediation, then they're taking it from that, we're not going back.
All right, so that's already part of the agreement is when the demo starts, that's whatever they discover in the demo is gonna be their responsibility.
You mean like pipe?
Yeah.
Like if
unforeseen,
they need new pipes or something, yeah, structural stuff, all that kind of structural stuff is part of rebuilding to be what they need. Yeah, that's their.
We're just capping what's there. What's there for their purposes is not our concern. They're getting a clean palette.
Right. That's basically what we're giving. We're giving them a clean shell when we're done.
Okay. Corporate park zoning,
Yeah, Paul and Rob joined me. We had a work meeting with the town planning board Tuesday afternoon. I think pretty much they're, and Paul and Rob chime in if you think, but they don't want to pursue the idea of doing a whole new overlay district. They don't feel that's needed. They feel it's more complicated. They think that they're going to get back to us in a couple of weeks. They're going to confirm that. But Tom Boxberger and they're the co-chairs, but Tom felt that they could easily put something in the regulation. For example, the town setback is 50 feet. Our requirement in the covenant is 75 feet. He said, I think that's easy enough for us to put. We can put something in our requirements for that area, and that would be part of our review. Make sure that happens. And the
Draft
uses.
actually says 40.
Pardon?
This draft says 40.
40.
Okay.
Yeah. But on the uses, they'll probably look to us to say if something from us, the responsibility is going to be on an applicant comes to them to put something up in the park. The responsibility is going to be on the applicant to document that they're following the covenants that are in place there. And they're going to check on their ability to enforce that and get back to us. But they're probably going to be looking at least at the IDA to say that, yes, we feel the use is acceptable or not. So we may be, a lot of it's pretty clear.
My impression is currently, we usually find out about a project after it's been through the town zoning process. What Randy and Tom told us is that they will schedule a public hearing until they have a comfort level that it's in compliance with the deed covenants, okay?
Do we have to look at uses? I forgot.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do, yeah. And they're don't.
They felt the deed covenants uses were too broad for them to enforce, and naturally we can't change the language in that. So chances are what we're going to see is before it goes to get final town approval, anyone that builds in the park, modifies in the park, is going to have to bring something to us to review to say we're comfortable with it, that it's in compliance with that. It's going to have to be probably something we set up a policy how we're going to handle it in-house. So, but.
And if it's not in compliance?
It's going to go to them. They're going to make a decision, and then we're
At
off
what
to.
point do you go out to the other tenants?
That's something we'll have to discuss, but we were thinking, talking among ourselves, that, something's gonna be pretty clear, is manufacturing or it's not, whatever. If it's something that's a gray area, we may need to do what sometimes been done in the past is send a letter to each of the tenants in the park to see if they find it acceptable.
In reality, we only have to do that in the newer section of the park.
Yes, right.
In the oldest section of the park, we have the latitude to modify the deed restrictions unilaterally, right or wrong. That's the way it is. But in the newer section, so it's not what we had hoped for,
Right.
but the town was very reasonable on how they're going to proceed. So I guess at this point, I have a comfort level with the way the town is moving.
Yeah, I thought they were trying to meet us halfway, try to work with us without.
It was a very good meeting.
Yeah, I thought so too, yeah. The bottom line, as Paul pointed out, a lot of the issues that have come up recently have been because we haven't had the direct communication with the town planning board that, someone goes to the town planning board for site plan review, them not even being aware of our covenants and what's entailed in those. Some of the controversy come up has brought those to a head. They're now where we got the communication going, and I think that'll be the improvement going forward.
Were other park tenants at the zoning?
Mr. Valentine, I think,
Yeah,
was the
Valentine.
only one that was there.
Mild frowns, don't know.
Afterwards,
I
he was
think
on-
he's comfortable with the way it's
Yeah.
going forward, but he has a wait and see attitude to see how it goes.
I thought Tom, it was a good meeting. I thought even he seemed comfortable with the way the discussion went.
He only had one comment, but I forget what it was.
It was during, at one point, one of the planning board members had made the point that, well, geez, we're putting all this discussion and effort into trying to accommodate, and you've only got 2 lots left to be developed in the park. You know, we have the 2, well, there's 3, but we own 1, but it's not developable. You know, that's when Jay looked at, went down, still here a while back, just a bedrock there, it's not. So you got those 2 parcels that are left, and Ed made the point right, but, because we were also discussing uses earlier, but he said, the thing is, down the road, someone, even the existing parcel, someone may go to do an expansion or a change of use. So it's still gonna have some varying.
They made clear that they are going to be cognizant, the planning board. In the past, they weren't really monitoring anywhere the change of use, but they also made the point that they aren't big fans of shell buildings any longer.
Right.
They want to know what the use is going to be, the final design too. So at that level, that's another.
Yeah, they're not gonna approve a spec building, just and call it.
Shells, okay, spec building. So it was a good meeting all in all.
Good, that's good to hear.
We have CWT Farms.
Can I bring up new business?
Sure.
Okay. I made a very brief presentation to the Board of Legislators 2 evenings ago. NOAA is proposing a marine sanctuary, and I did discuss this briefly with you, I think, at the loan review
Yes.
meeting, kind of. So what is occurring, it's in an environmental impact study right now, draft. They're gonna go through, collect comments, and the whole purpose of this is Jefferson County is by far the most expansive territory that touches this marine sanctuary. And then there's also Oswego, Cayuga, and Wayne County are vying for what really occurs with these marine sanctuaries is they also put in a heritage center. So I'm in communication with the last Thunder Bay, Alpena, Michigan. They put in a 9,000 square foot heritage center. It's all paid for by the federal government. There's adjunct things that go along with it. So I'm part of a grassroots organization, but I really appealed to the Board of Legislators. This has to be kind of a countywide significant or not significant. We don't care. I hope we do care. And just in some private conversations with Chairman Gray, it may or may not, involve economic development. I guess theoretically, at the end of the day, Jefferson County is against Oswego, Cayuga, and Wayne County. Is they've mapped 46 significant shipwrecks in Lake Ontario, and I think another 20 something in the St. Lawrence, because it goes part of the way up to St. Lawrence, so 60 something. And then on Blue Island, there's some areas of significance that touch the sanctuary. So the main effort of this is to put together a cohesive, and I'll say county. We've already approached Assemblyman Blankenship, which we're his water. We're the only remaining water in his district. He's all over this. He's obviously vying with assemblymen to the west of him and assemblywomen to the west of him. So I bring it up because I think it's something where if there could be some discussion, Bob Hagman's sitting in on a lot of the stuff. I know there was just a presentation in the town of Henderson. They're going to the different counties and making presentations. But I think it would be good if at least you can get up to speed with Mr. Hagman and find out if the county can take a lead. And I'm going to keep going to meetings and ask the county to take a lead. Eventually, I think we need to put together a PR budget and a PR strategy. And as I said at the meeting, I don't think private citizens doing this is the best effort. We'll do it. And I'm part of that grassroots team that is trying to attract something in the county. And as I said at our board meeting, agree to lead in the town of Henderson. We're going to go after this hard. We're already doing site plan review of appropriate lots. We have elected officials on our team. We have business people.
So what does it comprise of? I mean, what's it?
So it's very simply, the marine sanctuary is the lake. And what it does is, as part of the marine sanctuary, the federal government, NOAA, will put a heritage center. So what it does is, as part of the marine sanctuary, the federal government, NOAA, will put a heritage center. So it is basically a museum, federally funded, and then there's a lot of things that crop up as a result of the heritage center. So I'm in communication with the executive director, Jeff Gray, and figure out, did they get what they bargained for? Like, if they thought they were gonna increase tourism 50%, did they get anybody showing up in Alpena? Does anyone know where Alpena, Michigan? Just talking with him about the pros and the cons, because those are things that are questions I have. There's no more federal overreach. All they're gonna do is protect the shipwrecks, so they're all mapped. There's been NOAA ships all going on Lake Ontario and even the river. I don't know if anybody's seen this type of stuff, but they're out there. And they're mapping them. And I don't know who, well, you boat in the river, so you see some of the buoys over like the Keystone and the Victory. So they have buoyed dive sites, and they're gonna do a little bit of that in the non-navigable waters of Lake Ontario. So that's one thing. It'll create a new industry, diving. We're also, as part of our team, we're looking at things of one of the 3 missions with the NOAA of the Heritage Center is they clean up the area, they improve the water quality, and they develop infrastructure. And I think all 3 of those things check a lot of boxes for our county and clearly the other 3 counties that want the Heritage Center in their location. So what the goal would be is our county is already part of the discussion. Katie Malinowski is the local regional person that's kind of heading up things. There's 4 volunteers, if you want to call them that.
You're selling that group too.
Are you on that as well?
I'm on
Okay.
I represent economic development on the advisory.
So, anyway, that's what's going on with that. And, when I presented to the board of legislators, I indicated, this is probably, I know, Paul, if you're still on the FDRLO board, this is maybe another checkbox. The Y was a big deal with regards to Fort Drum. This is another area to improve the lifestyle within our area. And I don't know if FDRLO, I can never say that acronym.
Yep, advocate drum to go by.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's another area to improve the lifestyle around here. I brought up the fact that with JCC, they could actually start looking at marine sciences as an adjunct field of study because NOAA, Woods Hole, all of that stuff is all part of NOAA. So there's a lot of things that could improve if we think through all of this. But again, this isn't a bunch of little private citizens getting it together. I think it's more of a countywide. In Oswego, there's a lot of strong leadership in that area with regards to Albany and maybe even through Washington, D.C. So we got our hands full with Oswego County. Keega's got that little strip that comes up and touches the lake, and then Wayne's got Rochester influence. So I think there are some areas where we have a strong case.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 plans. Part of it goes up to St. Lawrence. One plan stops at Tibbetts Point, essentially. So I'll just bring that up in case you guys get an opportunity to touch base with Mr. Hagerman, but I think it is an economic development effort theoretically. And if we can win it in Jefferson County, I frankly don't care which plot of land it's on, but county first, town second, and then go from there. But anyway, that's my little piece.
Yeah, I mean, Jay was actually representing economic development on the body, kind of getting this thing set up to begin with, the larger scale, getting the thing set up.
So what we're doing, and I'll leave this the last thing, what we're doing is mapping out the timelines. We're already making political connections. Right now, they got to go through the draft environmental impact statement. That won't actually be done until early next year, maybe, or very late this year. But somebody has to cohesively start putting together PR programs and whispering Jefferson County, this place, that place. And if you can present certain site plan reviews, if anyone's familiar with Central New York, I grew up there. It's the Revolutionary War Trail. There's a lot of smaller heritage centers. There's an obelisk at Oriskany Battlefield that's connected to Fort Stanwix. So you got the Revolutionary. So that style of thing could occur along the Seaway Trail. There's a lot of different thought processes to spread this out, but there's got to be they always put a main heritage center, and it's 9,000 square foot museum and a lot of full-time jobs that the government is essentially paying for. It's a NOAA Marine Heritage Center. That's it.
Could I just?
Yep, go ahead.
As Dave said, I represent economic development on the advisory council. I drafted the economic development component of the plan that's been submitted to, we've got it submitted to at this point. I've also been to the Stellwagen Bank Heritage Center.
That's Gloucester, Stanford, right?
Yeah, it's in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and it's a significant facility that attracts a lot of people in, whether they're there to go on a whale watch or to go
Mhm.
fishing or whatever. It's a really neat place. So I'm very excited to hear about this, and if I can assist in any way, I'd love to. You are up against.
No, I think Oswego
competition from
definitely,
Oswego County.
Cayuga, I'm not so certain, but they got that little piece, so they got something to say, hey, it's our only lake. You know, there's pros and or cons, but I think if we put together a concerted effort countywide.
Yeah,
there's a lot to
I
offer
think,
here.
I think that Henderson would be a beautiful place.
Forget about the fact Henderson or not, like I said at the Board of Legislators, the county first. We gotta finish one, not four.
Right,
We're vying against 4 other counties.
right.
And then there's areas of great significance. I mean, even there's brownfield sites, like part of our planning is looking at like Madison Barracks. They're right along the waterfront. Glue Island, you can have a life-saving museum out there. There's a lot of things, if you think through this, you got federal money behind it, and the state always promised to do something with glue and preserve the islands, because it's like a farm, prime soil, so there's only 6 islands in all of the Great Lakes, period.
That's right.
So you've got 2 of them right off the shoreline of,
Yeah.
I mean, right here. Oh, actually 4 if you count Little Blue and Calf.
So what do you think your competing county issues are? Is it population?
We're putting that together now. So
Population is in
part of our,
shipwrecks in the area.
part of our
or-
team is Joel Malone, who works with Greg. He's part of our team. He owns property in Henderson. So right now this just started because of a bunch of Henderson residents getting together. But as we're not only interested in, if it's Henderson or nowhere, we're really just getting together. We think we have a good case to present in our town. But theoretically, we're doing site plan review through our town engineers, our elected officials are involved, business people, and, I got asked to, I'll be involved as well, and, I'm bringing it to this team, do what we gotta do with it, but it's really, I'm gonna keep appealing to, our board of legislators, because again, I think there's gotta be some PR money and a concerted effort, and I think it should be a county PR program, not a bunch of residents saying what they wish, which wouldn't be necessarily inappropriate, but I think if the county steps forward, it's a better effort.
You are absolutely correct in that, because it will be Oswego County that you compete against.
I'm pretty sure they're the, the team A.
And so the audience for the PR campaign is elected officials in Albany? Or
NOAA,
NOAA?
it's NOAA.
NOAA,
So this is a federal program. So right now, there's no audience, but not too early to plant seeds.
No.
If you show up before the impact statement is even done with a fully vetted PR program, site plan review and everything else, I mean, we're already talking with the farm that we want to buy like 850 acres. I mean, there's all sorts of things that are just in the works right now. No physical money, no promises, but just here's something more than a dream. This is a plan. It's a site plan review. It's a whole bunch of different things to say, here's what we would look like. We're actually getting a lot of volunteer services from a lot of people with regards to the pre-planning. Anyway,
Does it have to be on the waterfront? Ideally,
I think overlooking the waterfront or a close proximity to the waterfront are I'm not sure that they're, again, check boxes, but the Stellwagen and the one in Alpena, they're literally on the beach.
Yeah.
So part of their heritage site is to be able to walk to what they're protecting. Like the one in Alpena, because of sturgeon, like we have sturgeon, they have an aquarium showing what sturgeon look like, and they got aquatic centers. I think the Stellwagen one is both the heritage of the whaling and also, shipwrecks, but also just maritime heritage, period.
Yeah, there's does
Netting,
focus
fishing, planning.
more on the heritage and the
Yeah.
biology. I don't remember any kind of aquariums, but if I were going to build a heritage center, it would have all of that,
Yeah.
interactive displays.
Well, you
and
would think so, like around here, the species of fish we have,
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Because that will enhance how many people come to visit, enhance overall tourism.
And that's where looking up the other NOAA sites, I forget the term they use, I'm calling them like adjunct things, but like here, you can almost envision the Watertown Zoo maybe having a display in
Yeah.
close proximity to show the aquatic life, because it's more zoo. It's not really the heritage center, but it's the area.
When we designed the economic development component of the plan, that's what we called for, is this broad impact where we would be encouraging the zoo, Old McDonald's Farm, the Uncle Sam's boat tours, to be featuring this. It would be part of our marketing effort as quality of life, because there are not many places that offer a national marine sanctuary in their backyard. So that's all into the plan, and that's what we would be encouraging businesses, entities, organizations to do, is to incorporate all of this into their business models. If I were a realtor, I would be saying, you're gonna move right next to a national marine sanctuary.
Yes, location.
Exactly.
I mean, I would think like Westcott's Beach area, Southwick's Beach.
Yeah.
Those would be just ideal. Obviously, Madison Barracks.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of
There's a lot of
areas.
great
And I
spots.
I even threw out at the Board of Legislators, Blue Island, the state had promised to preserve that, because there's very historical, things like 16,000-year-old things from Aboriginal tribes. And the life saving station is one of the first life saving stations on the lake. There's a historic lighthouse out there. So there's a lot of adjunct things. A safe gill harbor for marine access only. You could envision a heel pad that would have both life-saving and transportation. I brought up ConocoPhillips. Right now, they're transporting the VP of the US in shakes by vans.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be great to jump on a helicopter and go to Blue and then truck back over to Stony. I mean, there's a lot of things we're in communication with ConocoPhillips. So there's a lot of things, again, I'm thinking way bigger than this will end up being, but that's, I think, where the genesis of a solid plan to offer our area, our county, as the best location because of all of these things. Access to the Thousand Islands. If the Thousand Islands decides they don't want to be part of the marine sanctuary, you still have access to it. It's got its own tourism brand. I mean, it's already there. You don't have to do much more selling for that. Anyway, thank you.
Is Corey French involved with this at all, or aware of it?
Don't
He serves on the advisory council.
So you're but you did, I think, open the door for consideration of some support resources. Is this?
It hasn't been officially asked, but yeah, so I made an initial presentation to the Board of Legislators.
Right. But coming
We've got a
back,
grassroots team. We're trying to map out, like, what does the PR plan need to look like? Because if it's a federal government thing, they probably have like fill out Form A and Form B. I'm sure it's expected to follow certain standards. So that's the stuff we're working through right now. Plus, I'm talking to the last one that was done in Thunder Bay, Alpena, Michigan, talking to that executive director to ask, how did they attract the Heritage Center there? What did they do? What triggers did they use? Basically, inside information.
Yeah.
Which is, it's public, but I mean, it's what you want to find out is, how did the last guy win?
but this agency probably, coming back to economic development under the jurisdiction of county entities, should probably maybe start to budget a little bit of.
I'm not asking for that, but I mean, I was also envisioning like the CF, whatever, like those types of things. If there is something else that needs to be built as part of that, bonding, some of the things that we have capacity to bond or loan money in those capacities for public-private partnerships. The federal government's going to come in and do its own thing. They're going to build a 9,000 square foot and hire all the people, and it's budgeted and paid for by the U.S. government, all of us, right? So that part is done, but then there's all the other things that happen around that. I mean, that's the part that.
Rob, if I may, I apologize for interrupting. Imagine if the Heritage Center doesn't end up here, but Jefferson County has its own facility. I mean,
it's possible.
You take a look at what we offer and what the draw of tourism is to our area. It is that lake and river and agriculture. And if we had our own Heritage Center, thanks to you doing all of this planning, we still go ahead, even if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, we're early days. I mean, and that's the very thing. If something happened in Cayuga County, that doesn't mean you're still uninterested part of families that are dragged up here to fish with an interested, and the family's looking for something to And, you know, there's only so many things to do, and this would be like a day trip, like you said, it's not wet.
You look at the Bassmaster tournaments as an example. There's families that come, but they're not out on the boat all day. There's- Right now,
Some
they're,
days you don't want to be on a boat.
no, some days you don't want to be. So the more things we offer like that, the better, the more people we will attract.
Well, and it's also year round.
Yeah.
You know, everything, all these tourism, like Sackett's, I mean, it's about, you know, getting that fourth season, you know, here too. I mean, that's something that you could do in the wintertime. And everybody wants, they're all looking for reasons to extend the tourism season.
Exactly.
You know?
Sorry for letting that genie out the bottle, but we definitely need to get back to business. That was just meant to get our collective ideas and juices flowing.
But these kind of centers, it's full-time positions.
It's
involved.
full-time year round.
And so it's be a half a dozen people, staff and executive director.
Full-time year round, there's a whole staff, and some of them are specialists in their areas. I mean, you gotta be a specialist on the area, and shipwrecks or diving or aquatic life to actually, you know, you don't just point at it and say, I think that's a walleye, but it's a bass, and misinform everyone.
I had sturgeon wash up in front of my cottage.
I did too.
Just one quick thing, I won't go into detail, but just that we're still moving along on looking at the Farragut site, possible development of that. We're doing bi-weekly calls with NYSERDA, Town of Wilna, Village of Farragut, Tug Hill, and others, so. Moving forward, nothing substantial to report yet, but it's still moving along.
Okay. CWT Farms International. The copy of the resolution I have, it really doesn't have the actual resolution number there, it just has 2021.
It's on the agenda.
It's a one.
That's because I was on vacation, sorry.
I realize it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
I was doing a Rob, I was
There you go.
picking out.
Hey, nothing matter with being precise. Not picky.
Okay. For further discussion, I have resolution number 09/2021.01. It's a resolution of the Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency appointing CWT Farms International, Inc. for itself and or on behalf of one or more entities to be formed, collectively the company, as its agent to undertake a certain project as more fully described below, authorizing the execution and delivery of an agent agreement, lease back agreement, payment in lieu of tax agreement, and related documents with respect to the project. Authorizing the provision of certain financial assistance to the company as further defined herein, adopting findings with respect to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and authorizing the execution and related documents with respect to the project. I have a motion and a second on this for further discussion.
Yes.
Second.
Jay, you have renditions,
Yes, I do.
renditions and
This is, I wanted to start with this. CWT Farms, in working with the developers at the Ag Park, requested that this look as much like a farmhouse, farm building as possible. Now, I'm colorblind, so I can't describe the colors on here, but my understanding is.
The earth tones.
Red and beige.
That they're gonna be red and, you know, the earth tones and so on. They're trying to design this so that when people drive by, they go, what's that? Because it looks nice. You know, the facility that was built in the corporate park certainly looks nice and you don't really know what it is. But it doesn't look as nice as this. So I just wanted to start with this to give you a little bit of an idea of what the outside appearance will be. Now, this next one has a lot of detail to it. And you might not be able to see it from a distance. So if you want to see it closer, let me know. This is the inside floor plan for the facility. This will be office space. Above that will be a lot of the infrastructure equipment, the heating, cooling, humidity, all of the computerized equipment and so on. So this will be a second story type facility. It'll have the entire ceiling will be a walk-on ceiling, so that they can easily access all of the HVAC equipment and so on that feeds into this. So this right here is a tractor trailer. The tractor trailer backs in, they unload eggs. All of these are carts and so on that contain the eggs that they use to go get the eggs. The eggs are then, and this design might change a little bit, but the eggs are then brought into this area of the facility. This area is all incubator rooms. These are like fancy computerized closets. Within the closet, the computer controls the humidity, the airflow, the temperature, and so on. I think I've described this to some degree before. The eggs will stay in this part of the facility for 18 days. After that, and this is all computer monitored and so on. The computer turns the eggs and everything. After 18 days, the eggs come over here. That's where they're analyzed to see whether they're a viable egg. If they are, they're inoculated and so on. Then they go over into this part of the facility, which is the actual hatching rooms. They stay in the hatching rooms for 3 days. That's when the chicks hatch out. After that, they go over into this part of the facility, the chicks, where they're sexed, they're cleaned, they're sexed, they're put in color-coded flats, blue and pink. Well, at least that's what they did in the old facility. And then they are brought over here and loaded onto a tractor trailer to most likely go to Canada. So that's the flow through the facility. Everybody, anybody that goes in there, showers in, showers out. Active, at least at this point in time. This is the site plan. Right here is Eagle Beverage. This is the side road here that comes. You come down Alexander Drive. You turn left onto the side road. The Eagle Beverage facility is right here. This is where CWT Farms is. Over here would be Bosie's. And then back here is the back part of the park. So it'll be out of the main flow. It's a nice usage of the property that they have. And whatever questions you have, I'm happy to answer them.
So being colorblind, you can't be a chicken sexer, can you?
No, because I'd be putting them in blue or whatever feels good at the moment.
Left or right?
That's right. Any other questions?
Is
Good location, good project.
that setup's very similar to the one in our park?
Very similar.
Same floor plan.
The technology is much different now than it was 15 years ago. But yeah, it's a similar flow. They went up to look at facilities in Canada that Jeff Pierce was aware of. Took Mike and Corey Lawler up there, and that helped them put together a final design for this facility.
You said this is 500,000 a week or a day? What did you?
A week.
A week.
Yeah, well, it's not quite that big. That would be mammoth.
Just remember, they still can't, I mean, I guess they're only that big, so 500,000 of those doesn't really occupy a lot of space.
In the scheme of things, this is probably a smaller, medium-sized hatchery type facility. There are larger across the nation.
And you said the existing one in the industrial park is like 750,000?
Yeah,
A
approximately.
little bit bigger? So
What-
this is
that
2/3.
would be their total capacity.
Okay.
I don't know if they're hitting that at the moment. I don't know.
Would they look to grow that business then, Jay, over time, or is it just, that's the size, and that's what they stay with?
I believe this is what they expect this to remain as.
And because of the robotics, what I'll call the warm rooms and the clean rooms and all that, they have to size that for a maximum capacity. They couldn't just like double the size, right?
Correct,
Well,
yeah,
not double, but they couldn't increase the size incrementally.
right.
Because this is basically a 24/7 operation. I mean, even though.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the work goes on during the day, but there's always a presence because of,
But there's either an egg or a chick occupying each space, and there's only
Yes.
so much space unless you, I
Right.
guess you can't go vertical, it's all mostly horizontal.
exactly. Yeah, it's a finite space, and you have your product that is growing within that space.
Very good.
Thanks, Jay.
But for John's question, I mean, so it's part of the overall company, the various locations, their whole strategy and income producing, but growth is sort of limited by the quota, but it's also their market is guaranteed by the quota at the same point going to Canada. So it's pretty stable, reliable source of income.
So obviously somebody's addressed the utility, restraints, again, with gas and electric, and this is not an issue.
Yep.
Yeah, that's being addressed.
Great.
Any other questions? On the resolution, roll call vote, please.
Rob,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa. Yes. Ed,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Resolution carries, thank you. 868, if I can get there. I have resolution 0909/2021.02. It's a resolution of Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency, the agency accepting an application submitted by DigiCollect LLC for itself and the scheduling and conduct of a public hearing with respect to the project, describing the forms of financial assistance to be contemplated by the agency with respect to the project, authorizing the execution and delivery of a land development agreement, with exclusive option and license LDA to be entered into with the company, and authorizing the issuance of notice of disposition with respect to certain real estate owned by the agency. I entertain a motion or a second for further discussion on this resolution.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
Kind of a question more for Justin. Actually, it's two questions. And one may affect the second thing we're doing. We had talked about collecting the fees differently for the legal portion of it. Is that under the LDA or the initial project resolution, and does it need to actually be mentioned?
There's been some discussion, Dave on leave with Harry in terms of what the expectations of the agency are in connection with fees incurred during the negotiation and completion of the LDAs for both Convo and DigiCollect. The discussions, as last I heard them, were that the agency was willing to, with respect to Convo, absorb on a cash flow basis, the fees for the Convo LDA with an expectation of reimbursement when a closing occurs.
Right.
Okay, so it doesn't affect DigiCollect?
Right.
All right, I thought that was kind of where this got
Right,
left
yeah,
off, but
because
it's
the
hard to
initial,
follow
yeah,
the bouncing
this
ball.
resolution is not so much dealing with the agreement, but it's authorizing us to move forward in the assistance.
Okay.
we provide. Yeah.
The DigiCollect, I believe they left in the period that the agency would absorb legal fees on the LDA outright, with straight lease transaction fees being paid at closing when that occurs. So
Okay.
The two LDAs, and just for reference purposes, if you're getting into the motion and to the subject matter, the LDAs are largely identical. With respect to the project description, obviously, one relates to 88 acres, 12, and different project size, but they're largely matched in term. The option is generally the same. The legal fees are a little bit different, as we just discussed, and the obligations of the agency are distinguished in as much as the IDA and the DigiCollect case is just obligated to prep the curvage, the roadway turn into that 12-acre area, as opposed to a much more expanded.
Okay.
road.
No, my question was just a lot simpler than that. Does it need to be mentioned in the resolution, or at some point, are you gonna ask for an additional resolution for the board to modify how we're collecting legal fees?
No, it'll
Or
just,
doesn't it matter? Staff could just have
well,
that.
he's already, I mean, so basically the agreement, he's already required to pay the legal fees on Compal. This is a question of the mechanics of when, so we're gonna
Yeah.
cover it up front by having reimbursed.
Okay, I know it's kind of a zero-sum
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
it's just that I didn't know if that's just left to the discretion of staff, or you needed something by the board.
No, it's accommodated within the way that this is.
Okay, cool, it was hard, it was kind of hidden in a lot of the language, I just wanted to make sure that was brought up. That was it?
Okay.
I only had one question, actually, it's just a long one.
Anything else? On the resolution, roll call vote, please.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Bill,
Resolution, roll call vote, please.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa. Yes. Paul.
Yes.
The resolution carries. Thank you.
But as I understand this after the fact, I probably should have asked this prior to the vote. But, this is really an inducement. It's not the final. I mean, they don't have the final figures.
No, we're working, drafting that up.
Yeah.
I've got some drafts. I think I've shared with you.
Yeah, that's what my assumption was. I just want to clarify.
This just kind of sets the stage for us to start the
Yeah.
process.
And with that, we have page 75, the land development agreement, with license and exclusive option. This land development agreement with license and exclusive option herein, the agreement dated as the 15th day of September 2021 by and between Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency of Public Benefit Park duly existing under the laws of the state of New York, the state with offices at 100 Watertown, New York, 13601, the agency, and DigiCollect, duly formed and validly existing under the laws of the state of Delaware, with offices at 800 Starbuck Ave, Suite A15, Watertown, New York, 13601, the company.
They need to be corrected.
Yeah, there's an extra zero.
There's an extra zero in this.
We just caught that, too.
Can I have a motion and a second
So
on
move,
this
I'll
for
move the,
further discussion?
Second.
Justin, is there anything you want to run through on this one, or?
I touched on the highlights just a few moments ago. The structure of the option that you're granting is largely the same as Convo. There's up to 2 years to get through planning, design, engineering, and permitting process, and financing.
Where's Suite A15?
It's over there. So he's got a piece here.
That would
It's back door, yes.
occur at the same time as, what we call a pilot transaction. The lease is back and pilot structure is deployed on the same date as the option exercise, and presumably construction financing The timing and pace of that pendency or that option period are largely in Barry's hands. The town planning board, planning, design, engineering, site plan, and secret process dictate much of the lead time. Hopefully that goes quickly and financing is put together in a way that will allow the exercise. The IDA's activities and obligations are largely limited to just issuing the form of 90-day notice to state and disposition of land, which upon execution of the LDA, which we hope to have occur next week, we've queued it up to 15. We would issue the 90-day notice right away and burn that time off with ministerial act. And then IDA staff would pursue the completion of the curb cut and the preparation of that entryway. Other than that, it's really Harry's hands to drive the bus.
Very good. Any questions? Nope. On the motion, roll call vote, please.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa, yes, Paul.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for the IDA?
Just two things actually for the LDC, I should have mentioned anyways, but that, I'll be sending them out today, just as we're working on some dates. I'll send out to the personnel committee. We need to get a personnel committee meeting set up soon. And then alternative energy committee, I'll submit up for that, so.
Anyone else have anything for the IDA?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, do I have a second? Second. On the motion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned. With that, I'll call the order to Jefferson County Civic Facility Development Corporation. Once again, for the record, it's Thursday, September 9th. We received our minutes from August 5th. Is there any additions and or corrections? I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Treasurer's report.
Page 3 of your packet, no change from prior month. We've received $4,500 to date. We've spent nothing. And page 4 is our balance sheet. Excuse me, again, no change from prior month. We have $20,816.63 in our checking account with no place to spend it. Yeah.
We've got a place to spend it.
No, yes, I said yes. I didn't give you a precondition. I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as represented.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Finance Committee. We have the budget.
Yeah, we met again on August 24th to review the civil, Jefferson County's Civil Facility Development Corporation budget, and pretty simple. Wasn't a lot here to review, but I think at the time, so there weren't any projects on the horizon, but it's this summer.
We now have one on the horizon, and I think we should probably modify this to include the fee. Because the fee has been discussed, hasn't it, Dave?
Was the one we're reissuing, you mean, or?
The modification.
Yes, yeah.
What's your proposed number?
David, I haven't, they were, didn't they request a flat fee?
They were going 25, a quarter of 25%, a quarter of a percent reissuance fee, which will be.
But if we're gonna modify the number, we have to convert that to a dollar amount, right?
Yeah. It's like, that's like 56,000 for our fee.
What's the bond? The bond issue is how much, 40?
Yeah.
Is it 33 million?
The fee came out to like 56,000 something or other, 56 plus.
Well,
It's budget 57,
57?
budget that, it's just shy of 57.
I would move we amend the proposed budget to add a $57,000 revenue line under application fees for the 22 budget, 21, 22 budget.
Does the annual processing fee change? because there's 5,000 allocated for Meriden, it's a very,
Those are processing.
okay, so that remains the same, it's
Yeah.
just additional line, there's not a change to both, okay.
JCC and SMC.
Second that motion.
On the motion to amend, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Do I have a motion for the budget as amended?
Yes, I think John,
Yeah, make a motion. We
I'll
accept
second.
the budget as amended.
All right, on the amended budget, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have to consider a fee schedule.
Yeah, so when we first set up our fees for the, doing the facility bonds, we anticipated what we're gonna charge someone to come and do a bond for us. Not thinking about someone may come back to us and do a reissuance, which has now happened again here. So instead of each time, making an exception to our fee, and actually speaking with Justin, this 0.25% fee for a reissuance is pretty common among other IDAs. So that's what we're suggesting, just establish that as our upfront fee for a reissuance of an existing bond, when they're changing terms, whatever.
The only thing we're changing here is we're adding the reissuance.
Yeah, the other fees are staying the same, we're just adding a line there for a reissuance fee.
He says, 0.25?
Yes.
Yes. We have a motion and a second on our fee schedule.
I'll move that.
Second.
Right?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Page 29. Once I get there. We have an authorizing resolution. Resolution 0909, 2021.01. Resolution of Jefferson County Civic Facility Development Corporation, the issuer, authorizing amendment of the issuer's tax exempt multimodal revenue bonds, Samaritan Senior Village, Inc., Project Series 2012, and execution of related financing documents. I have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one question. Does this happen this fast because we had the last month's meeting, this wasn't even on our radar, then loan review wasn't on our radar, and then we
Well,
get an
it
email?
happened fast for a couple reasons. One, it got lost in my email. I mean, but we didn't have the final documents we needed until after our last meeting anyway. So
I don't have
Yeah,
a problem
yeah,
with it. I just wondered
yeah,
the timeframe,
yeah,
because it seems like the decision on $31 million of refinancing in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it really was in the works for longer.
Yeah, I mean, well, I could have given you a heads up sooner, but it was just, like within the last week, it really was. So
Very good.
But they want to try to close by the end of the month. They haven't had anything to that, discussions with Samaritan on this.
This one really all just passed through, right?
Yeah,
We're not
pretty much.
really doing anything.
Right.
I thought you brought it up at loan review though. No? Seems like this came up in casual
Well, we
discussion
had,
somewhere.
yes. I mean,
That they were planning to do
we had gotten
something,
a
but they
call a
weren't
while
certain.
back, and I had mentioned that we
Okay.
were expecting something, but the actual application, we got lost.
But Paul, right, it's not in any minutes, it wasn't
Right,
any
yeah.
discussion, you might have just said, hey, this might be happening.
Yeah.
I just, it wasn't a total surprise, but.
I believe the bank and Samaritan were in discussions regarding the restructuring and the refinance. It was June and July. They didn't really engage much. I think they gave a courtesy call to Dave or staff saying something was good without much detail provided. The application, they did send a Dave there, caught it in spam or something. It was actually an IDA application in mid-August. We finally got kind of engaged and a better heads up, if you will, about 2 weeks ago, with some draft documents moving around, and we were kind of scratching our head, and that prompted us to ask them in the middle of last week, please fill out a facility application, the appropriate one, so the board can react. And that kind of led to, I think, the crossing of the wires or the piece of this. you probably would have had a loan committee meeting if this was on your desk 2 or 3 weeks ago when you pushed off that loan committee. So this is kind of covering the more straight stuff. It is fairly straightforward, it's just a recap here, it's just a bond, it's not too complicated. It's just a might be opportunity for the facility and to improve the finance. So, all the details are generally put forth in the application. They're getting an adjusted term and a better interest rate under the bond that was issued in 2012.
Yeah, so they'll save about 3 million on interest payments. Yeah.
Nice. Anything else?
No, good for a vital part of the community.
On the resolution, roll call vote, please.
Rob,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
You change the order on these to baffle us. Every single one's different.
Yes.
I swear, sometimes they're alphabetical.
Resolution carries, thank you. Anything else for the civic facility? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.
It's the only way you can keep us awake.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
This next one's gonna be.
Yes.